Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am celebrating along with Neat and Tangled for their 6th birthday. Happy birthday, Neat and Tangled. And I am creating some fun projects with their newest products. This is their new release here. It's got a lot of great products that coordinate well together. The Party Mix sequins are there on the top. I'm not actually using those today, but I did want to walk you through this release because I think it is so well thought out. So first up, I wanted to show you the Floral frame stamp set and die set. I love that there are kind of some geometric shapes within this really feminine floral frame. And the die set has that centerpiece that cuts out the center of the wreath, and you can either use it or not. Now this die set here actually coordinates with the gift box there on the end. And this is the part that I think is so well thought out because this is the Thanks So Much stamp set. It's got all of these great sentiments, but it also has these pieces that you can stamp on top of the gift box. And all of those sentiments fit within that diamond. Now, this is important because the die sets coordinate as well. So you can see that topper there. The diamond cuts out the diamond, or you could cut a window in the top of the gift box or in that little panel there with kind of the lines that radiate out. And it also works really well with this Build-A-Tag die set. So while that is actually the gift card box edition die set, it also works really well size-wise with the Build-A-Tag die set, and you get these circles within there as well. And I love that there's these simple shapes that you can kind of use on other projects. Now this is the gift card box, and I'm going to show you how that comes together. It kind of reminds me of like a flatter donut box or like a sheet cake box. That's kind of the shape of it. It's kind of the rectangle. It has the flaps that fold in, but it is perfectly sized to put a gift card or other small goodies. You can see you actually have a little bit of extra room with the gift card as well. So if it's on one of those little cardboard backers, it just might fit in here without having to take that off. And of course, it's always great to find fun ways to give gift cards because I like to kind of dress them up for the holidays and for birthdays. It just, to me, makes them feel that much more special. So I'm starting out my projects today. I'm going to share several projects with you. I'm not going to share all of them that were in the photo because we would be here until next Tuesday. No, actually, the projects didn't take me that long because what I did was I picked a color theme and like a technique and just a couple of little products to use and kind of create this whole suite of projects. So I'm starting out with the floral frame, and the color palette that I chose was very much based on a kind of Art Deco inspired color palette. Now, the reason I chose an Art Deco kind of inspired thing is that the stamps in this release, not necessarily this floral frame, but really when you get into that Thanks So Much stamp set, there are really a lot of Art Deco kind of feeling shapes and patterns within that. So I kind of Googled Art Deco and I took my jumping off point from that. And I chose kind of a minty green and a corally or peachy color palette along with gold, because if you look at Art Deco, there is a ton of gold. And it's me, so duh, there was going to be gold. So I stamped that, I colored it with my Copic markers, I took the coordinating dies and I lined that up, and I left the center part of this die in place so that it would cut the center of the wreath out. But you can actually cut those two dies apart and use that center separately. So you can have the wreath with the center still in it or with it die cut out. So now I'm taking the Hello sentiment here and I am going to gold heat emboss it on some vellum. So I prepped the surface with a powder tool. I stamped it in some Versamark ink, and then I added some Brutus Monroe Gilded embossing powder and I heat set that. And now I'm taking it over to my trimmer and I'm trimming it down into a little strip there, and I'll eventually cut that into a banner. Now I also have some kind of mint colored cardstock. That is the Hero Arts layering paper in the pool color. It is the lightest of those colors that come in the pack. This pack of layering papers is one of my favorite. And you can see I took the wreath there and I placed the center inside of it, and I temporarily adhered it to that mint cardstock so that I could position the die around that, and I'll be able to position my floral frame right over the top of that and kind of have this window, perfectly shaped window in the front of my card. Now, to add a little texture to this window area, I actually die cut the Punchinella, or is that how you say it? Punchinella? It's probably, I think Laura Basson says it Punchinella, but I'm not Italian, so I don't know if I can get away with that or not. Anyway, I die cut that die. I will have it linked in the description below so that if I'm saying it wrong, you can find it. I die cut it from some vellum. I adhered it over the window using some collage medium in the matte finish, and then I adhered my floral frame right over the top of that using some foam adhesive. Now for the card base, I wanted there to be a little bit of that kind of peachy color behind it, but I don't want it to go outside of the bounds of that mint paper. So I just masked off the edge of my card base using a big giant Post-it note. I blended on some Tattered Rose Distress Oxide ink. And then I took that entire card panel and adhered it to the card base using some foam adhesive. And that finishes off my first card. So now I'm moving on to my next card project, and I'm going to use the diamond from the Thanks So Much stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it a few times on this card front. So I am using a pencil to make some lines so that I know where to kind of line all these things up. I suppose I could have used my Misty, but I think this was just as easy, and I realized that not everybody has a Misty. So once I have kind of my marker lines drawn here, I'm going to take this big diamond shape and I'm going to gold heat emboss it onto this card front. This card front is made from some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock because I love a good linen textured cardstock. And I've stamped that first diamond right there in the middle. I drew the X on the cardstock so I knew right where the center was. Then I drew a couple of lines across the top and the bottom so I knew where I wanted the tips of my diamonds to hit. So I went ahead and I heat embossed that first diamond, and now I'm prepping the surface once again. I'm inking up this diamond stamp once again, and I'm going to stamp it to where kind of those side tips overlap each other. This was very much inspired by a kind of Art Deco mirror grouping that I saw online, and I thought it would make an awesome pattern stamped with these diamonds. So I've gone ahead and I've stamped the two outermost diamonds in this grouping. I'm adding the Brutus Monroe Gilded embossing powder. I'm knocking off the excess, and then I'm going to heat set that. But when I heat set these outer diamonds, I'm going to be careful not to remelt the powder that I've already heat set, because that will kind of make it, it almost like absorbs into the paper. It's really weird, but you want to make sure that you're not overheating that embossing powder that's already heat set on your project. So once again, I've prepped the surface of my card front, and now I'm going back in with like this little line detail, and I'm stamping it between those diamonds. Once again, I'm being careful not to overheat the embossing powder that's already been heat set on my card front. Now, once I have all of these things stamped onto my card base, I'm going to take an eraser and I'm going to erase the lines that I drew for my markings. And then I'm going to clean the surface off with this little tonic, like surface sweeper brush that I have. You could use it for a lot of things, but I like to clean up my surface with like powders and eraser marks and stuff like that with this little brush. So now I've taken some strips of full sticky Post-it notes and I've masked off that center diamond area, and I'm blending on some Catherine Pooler Meant to Be ink. I kind of sped it up. I started out with a really light hand because this cardstock is not super great for blending. But if you have a cardstock that's not great for blending and you kind of start with a light hand and build up the color gradually, it works a lot better. I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to mask off the outer diamonds and do some ink blending in those. But I don't want to blend the ink over that area where it kind of, the two diamonds overlap. I want that to stay in the mint green. So I've added a couple more strips of that Post-it note. And now I'm blending in some Catherine Pooler Bellini ink. And I'm just using my Tim Holtz mini ink blending tools to do this. And you can see when I pull up the mask, it's like complete magic. Masking is magic. I will tell you that. There's nothing like it when you pull it up. It's so much fun to see your results. And with a shape like this, it's relatively easy to kind of mask them off, especially you don't really have to create super intricate masks. These are just strips of Post-it note, and it worked perfectly. So once I remove the mask from all these diamonds, I'm going to buff off that embossed area just to make sure there's no ink sitting on the top. And I went ahead and heat embossed that hello greeting once again onto some black cardstock. And I'm just cutting the ends into a banner shape by cutting a slit in the middle of the cardstock and then cutting from each corner to that center slit. And that's going to give me a great little banner shape. And I'm going to adhere this onto my card front using a little bit of foam adhesive. And I actually doubled up the foam adhesive on this. Then I took that card front and I mounted it to a piece of gold cardstock and then onto a mint card base. And I also added a couple of 3mm sequins kind of flipped upside down to add kind of some shine, and they almost look like jewels on this card. And that also came from a very Art Deco inspired look. So now we're moving on to this gift card box, and I am die cutting it from that mint cardstock that I've kind of been using throughout these projects. This is going to keep all of these projects feeling very cohesive. I'm using a lot of the same elements, a lot of the same techniques, and a lot of the same products. And what that does is it keeps the whole grouping of projects feeling very cohesive, but it also allows you to kind of create lots of projects just by kind of interchanging the same elements and using them in different ways. I find this is a great way for me to be productive, is just pick a few products and then just go to town and not pull in my whole stash, but just create within the limitations of those few products. So I've die cut this gift card box, and it does create some score lines. And I think that the easiest way to do this is kind of start by folding the score lines kind of the opposite way of what they need to go. I think that's the easy way to get them started. And then you can kind of fold them into the way that they're supposed to fold in and really reinforce those creases with a bone folder. So you can see I've gone ahead and bent all of these score lines. I'm finishing up with the center fold in the middle of this box here. Now on the bottom portion of this box, you're going to want to add some adhesive. There are two kind of flap areas on the sides, and I'm adding some adhesive to the outermost flap. You can see it there right inside of that score line. I'm also going to do the same thing on this end flap here, this is all the bottom part or the base of the box. So I'm making sure that my adhesive doesn't show through that little circle area, which is left open so that you can kind of open the lid a little bit easier. And I'm also adding some adhesive to these tabs, and I'm adding it to what would be the outside portion. You can tell on this box, because the cardstock is green on one side and white on the other, you can kind of tell which side I'm adding it to by whether or not there's color on it. So once I have the adhesive added, I'm going to remove the backer from the adhesive that it's on these tabs, and I'm going to start folding up this box, and it comes together really easily. I am just kind of allowing those corners to meet up, and I have to tell you, this comes together really easily, but I don't feel like I made it look super easy. I was kind of fumbling around. I don't know if I was tired or what, but anyway, I'm just folding up those tabs and creating the corners of the box. And once I have all of those corners kind of meeting up, then I'll remove the adhesive backer from these flaps and just fold them over those tabs that are already folded in and adhered. So this just kind of makes the box look really tidy because these flaps fold in and just kind of cover up where the tabs adhere, which I really like the way that, like I said, that it just keeps the box looking super tidy. Now, once those flaps are all folded in, then all I have to do is take the lid and kind of tuck in the tabs, and I have my gift card box. So you can see how quickly and easily this comes together. This will fit on your standard size die cutting plate. So your Big Shot, your 6x9 plates, this die will fit perfectly on. And you can see here is my completed box, and I have that little circle or half circle opening where I can really easily open the lid. So now that my box is built, I'm going to work on a little sentiment kind of topper for this box. And I've die cut the gift card box edition. It's this little panel that has kind of these debossed lines cut into it. And this diamond shape fits perfectly within those lines that are kind of radiating out. So once again, I'm heat embossing that. I went ahead and stamped it with the Versamark ink and then added the embossing powder, and I haven't heat set it yet because I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment in the center of that, add my embossing powder, and then I can heat set everything at once. I didn't want to do it in the previous card where I stamped everything and heat embossed all at once because I really wanted to make sure that all of those lines were crisp. But on this particular project, none of the lines were overlapping, so I didn't have to worry about that. So once my sentiment and that outer diamond is heat embossed, I'm going to go ahead and mask off the area once again. And now I'm blending on some Catherine Pooler Bellini ink. I'm going to buff off the embossing powder and remove these Post-it note strips. And now I have a really beautiful ink blended sentiment area for the top of this box. I'm going to just layer it up on some more of that gold cardstock using some foam adhesive, and then I'm going to attach this entire topper to my box, and I'll just finish the box up with a little bit of baker's twine that has some gold metallic threading through it. And I thought that was a fun way. I didn't have to alter the box in any way to add the twine, but I did have to fold in the two side flaps I'm going to show you here. And I just tied those kind of into the center of the box using that twine to allow me to kind of wrap that around. So as I mentioned before, I repeated a lot of these same elements and products, and I created a whole suite of projects using this new Neat and Tangled release, which I think is absolutely beautiful. You're going to see that gold, that peachy color, and that mint color kind of repeated throughout. And I was able to put together several projects really quickly by just kind of keeping it very simple, keeping within the same color palette, using that gold embossing powder and the gold cardstock over and over again, and just kind of changing up the arrangement of the different elements. You'll see a lot of banner shapes within these projects, and because I've used them in different ways, all of the projects still feel very unique. I finished off a bunch of them using some sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. And over at my blog, you can check out detail shots of all of the projects that I created using this new release from Neat and Tangled. Over there, you'll also find information on a blog hop, which this video is a part of. And there are some giveaways over there, so you'll want to make sure that you hop on over there and check it out. I will have a link to my blog in the description at YouTube. Over at my blog, you'll also find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. As always, I will put links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. But like I said, head on over to my blog. You'll find much more information over there. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I really hope you enjoyed a look at all of these projects that I created using the new Neat and Tangled August release. Happy 6th birthday, Neat and Tangled. I wish you a wonderful year ahead. I know you have many amazing years to come because you've had 6 amazing years already. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and video tutorials. I'm so glad you've stopped by and hung out with me today. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are my favorite. If you want to subscribe to my channel, be sure to click that button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.